Hello, everyone. This is Larry Clark with Excelsior Music Publishing, and we're here with another video live presentation of Meet the Composer with Matthew Putnam.
Director that did a lot of arranging, composing for us, and I just kind of thought that's what band directors did. So that was kind of ingrained in me from the beginning. I always knew that I wanted to be able to do that, aspire to do that, and college got a music ed degree, became a high school, middle school band director. And I found a need to write for my own students, whether it was a simple exercise or a pep band chart or a marching band show, whatever. And just started doing that. People would come up to me, other directors liked what I was doing, and said, "Hey, would you mind arranging something for our group?" And it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. Well, what types of things inspire you, especially writing original compositions, which you've done a lot for me and also for Excelsior. What inspires you, to actually come up with the material that you write?
A lot of times it starts with the question, what if? What if I wrote a march in a minor key? And those kinds of things. What if I wrote a grade 1.5 piece in the Lydian mode? Could I make that work? So it's almost a self-challenge. What can I do with this within the confines of the grade level that I'm writing for? A lot of times that's what inspires me. Curiosity.
So then do you find that you come up with a plan as far as, a key or a mode or a style that you want to compose in before you get started?
I wish I could say that I had a set mode that I go to, but it really varies piece to piece. Sometimes it may start with a melodic idea, and I'll kind of extrapolate that into a piece, or it may start with an idea of I want to do something in a particular mode or key. It may be a particular rhythmic feel that I'm going for. It's a lot of experimentation, a lot of trying of different ideas. For me, composing is more like sculpting with clay as opposed to painting a picture.
Right.
Put little different ideas together, mold it, shape it, rework it. That's kind of how I approach it.
So do you like, so you said you other people ask you to write stuff for them and whatever. Do you like it when they tell you kind of what they want then, or are you more comfortable when they say, yeah, just write a piece for us?
I think the scariest thing for a composer is no limits.
Yeah, really.
Do whatever you want. Then so much self-doubt creeps into that, and I want to write something really cool, but I like having confines. That's why I like writing middle school stuff. I've got technical boundaries that I've got to stay within. I've got range limitations, limited instrumentation. I kind of like being creative within those confines. So if somebody comes to me with a really, really cool idea for a piece, yeah, I'm all about that. Every once in a while, somebody comes with an idea and you're not feeling it, you could say, and you try to have that conversation with them. You may have different ideas and that kind of thing. But for the most part, I really like when people have an idea and then I can kind of put my own spin on it.
So, yeah, I always go back to the old Stravinsky quote: "The more limited, the more free."
Yeah.
Where if you don't have any place to start, then you don't get started.
Right.
So I kind of get that concept too. So what's your favorite part about writing music? I know what I would say.
When it's done. No.
That's exactly what I would say.
You go through so many different emotions throughout the process. There's elation and there's frustration. It's really a weird kind of dance that you do. I think, sometimes, oh, this is great. I'm in the moment. It's flowing freely, and sometimes it's like, why did I write that? Right.
Well, since we're talking to students, explain to them maybe a little bit more about what do you mean by that when it's all these different emotions and feelings and self-doubt and all that stuff that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, you as a composer, you're wearing your heart on your sleeve, and especially if you're writing music to be published and shared with the world, you really want to put your best thing forward, and Your self-esteem comes into play there. Self-doubt, this isn't as good as it needs to be. You're ultimately competing with yourself to be the best that you can be.
Right.
And when I can do that better, and that frustration trying to get over that to that next level. But it is rewarding. It's we keep coming back to it. I love doing it. I really do. And it's like therapy for me. When I can just focus on writing, that's all I'm thinking about. The rest of the world just kind of melts away for a little while. It's a good escape for me, and it's good that I have that, and then I can share the product with other people to enjoy and learn from.
Well, let me see if this is the same for you. Sometimes when I get in the zone and I'm writing, time just seems like it. Boom! It's 4 hours later, and I maybe only wrote 8 measures, but it just goes so fast.
Right. It's like nothing else exists for that time period that you're in there. Yeah, I totally get that. I really do.
Yeah, and for the students, and I'm sure maybe your wife's the same way. My wife calls it composer brain, because as soon as I come out of that zone of writing, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure, I'm not even able to talk to anyone, or because my brain is I've been so overloaded with just trying to be creative.
Well, I'm fortunate. My wife is a former band director.
Mine too.
So, she totally gets that, and she can just look into my eyes and know just from the look on my face where my brain's at. And she's just learned to accept that, and she's very understanding about that. But yeah, I mean, we'll be driving down the road and she'll say, "You're composing right now, aren't you?" I said, "Well, yeah, actually."
Yep.
Great ideas when you're driving. I don't know. I guess it's because you have no access to a keyboard or finale or staff paper. Your mind's just thinking about it.
So students always want to know, well, what do you come up with first? Is it melody? Is it harmony? Is some rhythm? How do you get started?
Yeah, I was asking myself that question today. I'm having a little bit of writer's block this morning. Wasn't very productive, but most of the time for me, it's melody.
Yeah.
It's melody driven. And what I find is that the melody is going to kind of lead you to the harmonic structure.
Right.
That's for me, that's 9 times out of 10, that's it. Now, I may sit down and plunk out some interesting chords and then build a melody to that, but most of the time it's the other way around. Just the way I approach it.
Yeah. I'm 100% in agreement with you on that for sure. So also tell us now a little bit about, do you start out thinking about a form for the piece, or do you just kind of take that melody and then just sort of let it flow where it seems to want to go?
I hate to keep saying the same thing. It depends on the piece. If I'm writing a march, form is going to dictate that because it is so structured. If it's more of an ABA kind of thing, I'm not so regimented. I do kind of let things kind of lead where they want to go. I write it as a fan of music. What would I want to hear, or what would I find interesting to happen next, or what would be a neat surprise to happen next? That kind of style. But you try to have the big arc kind of in mind, but the details kind of reveal themselves as you go.
Right. So if one of the students out there watching this is interested in becoming a composer, or wants to try to be a composer, or try to just write music for fun, what do you suggest to them how to get started?
Just write something, whether it's a duet for you and a friend, or I've had students, especially with the high school, there's a new pop tune that's real popular. They want the band to play it in the stands at a football game. And I'll say, well, give it a stab, try it out, write something. And I've had some kids write some pretty successful little pep band tunes going that route. You learn by doing, just get out and do it. Talk to your band director. I think most band directors are going to be willing to give you some time with the band to experiment, let the band play it, see what happens. That's how you learn. You learn from what you do right, but more importantly, you learn from what you do wrong. The mistakes teach you more than the successes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I always tell students start small too. You know, sometimes the young person wants to write, oh, I want to write a symphony, or I want to write this big 10-minute band piece or orchestra piece or whatever.
Right.
Just write stuff, like you said, write stuff for your friends
Yeah.
that you know you can get played, and they'll also be encouraging,
Right.
and they'll think that's really cool that you wrote
Right.
something for them. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for them to do that. So tell me some influences. You know, who are there some composers that, you know, maybe name a few composers that have been really influential in determining kind of, you know, your style of composition?
Yeah, it's pretty wide. Of course, as a young band director, you and I were talking earlier about our involvement in DCI in our younger years. I just was kind of in awe of the arrangers of that time period. You mentioned Robert Smith, who arranged for us at Spirit of Atlanta. Um, Jim Prime, a big influence. Jay Bocook, an influence.
Yeah.
Ray Baumgart, Jim Ott. I mean, I was just in awe of what those folks did. On the concert band side, I love Granger. Um,
Yeah.
I love Holtz. I mean, all that. So just so many influences. I'm a big fan of jazz. So big band stuff. I absolutely love the music of Pat Metheny. Um, real big influence. Lyle Mays, who we just lost about a month ago.
Right.
Yeah, big influence on me. Just uh, interesting harmonic structure. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I just love that. I'm
Hmm.
not a guitar player. That's on my bucket list, but I think that's maybe why I like it, because it's so different from what I do. But yet I can learn from that and incorporate and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a lot of varied influences.
So I might add for the students that are listening to this, go back, rewind this, and listen to the names that he said, that Matt said: Holst and Granger and Pat Metheny and Jat, you know, and then go back on YouTube and then look those folks up and then listen to them yourself, and that will
Yeah.
certainly, you'll get a really good idea of some high quality literature that you can then listen to and learn from
Yeah.
as well. So
And there's more.
that's really good.
I think as composers, everything we listen to informs what we do.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything we listen to is going to inform that. So there's been just countless numbers of influences throughout the years.
So talk to me a little bit about your experience with trying to get your music out there once you felt like maybe it was good enough that you wanted to try to get it published, you want to try to submit it to publishers. Talk to me about your experience, that, you know, students might be interested in, you know, how that process works.
Um, well, I guess I kind of have an interesting story in that I'm fairly new to being widely published. I went through early in my career. I submitted a lot of stuff to various uh, companies. I had some stuff published, oddly enough, with Roll Off Productions.
Oh, percussion.
I read some marching
Oh,
percussion features with them early on, and I really thought that was going to be my path, was going to be marching band arrangements, but that just never really happened. I submitted some concert band stuff, but I would submit like large amounts of material. Here is my catalog, and I would send, and that really was probably not the wisest way to do that.
yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Is not. It's better to send one piece at a time.
Yeah, and
So for those listening out there, do that.
yeah, and you would send stuff off, and you would either get the form letter, thanks for submitting, but we're good right now. Maybe in the future, that kind of thing. Or worse yet, you would send it off into the void and never hear anything. So I really kind of got disheartened by that. So I just stopped submitting stuff for publication, and I just focused on doing custom arrangements, compositions for people that wanted it, and enjoyed doing that, and taught me a lot and gave me a lot of experience. And then I was at the North Carolina Music Educator Conference. You were there a couple years ago. We have a mutual friend, Cindy Gilbert, that I work with in Polk County. That she had been in Suncoast with you. She knew you, and
Right.
she introduced us, and
Right.
started the conversation. Hey, you need to listen to some of this stuff, and you gave me a card and said, "Well, send me some stuff."
Yeah.
So after probably about 15 years of not submitting, I said, well, I'm going to send Larry something, one thing. I'm not going to send him the catalog. I'm just going to send him one thing. And I knew that you kind of had an affinity for Harold Bennett and that
Yeah.
style of march.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm going to send Larry my take on a Harold Bennett march. It's not going to be a copy of him. It's going to be
Just
kind of
in the style of.
right
Yeah. Yeah.
in that style, an homage, if for lack of a better word.
I've done it a few times myself.
Yeah, and I guess it was probably into the school year, late May, early June. I sent it to you, and I said, all right, we'll see what Larry has to say. And I waited and waited and waited and waited. And
Oh, sorry about that.
now, August rolls around, and I get a rather lengthy email from you, and it's a critique of the piece.
Yeah.
Um, it was the most feedback I had ever gotten from a publisher. I
Right.
loved it. It was, I like the piece. Here's a few things you might want to take a look at to fit into our parameters.
Right.
I mean, and all of them were great suggestions. It wasn't like, I was not offended at all. And you said, if you're willing to make these adjustments, we'd like to publish it. Well, I was over the moon. So yeah, of course I did that. And then I think in pretty rapid succession, I sent you another piece. I think I sent you Invictus Rex when you were at Carl Fisher, and ended up my first year getting published. I had 2 pieces published, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
We've been working together ever since.
Absolutely. And how many pieces do we have that are coming out this spring?
I think it's 6 band pieces and a string orchestra piece.
Yep. So perseverance, I guess, is the thing we would need to remind all those young people out there. Keep trying.
I'm a 25-year overnight success.
Hey, doesn't matter as long as it happens, right?
But but along that lines, I wouldn't do it any different. The things that I learned in that interim where I wasn't submitting led me to be able to do the stuff that I'm doing now. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be as good a composer as I'm trying to be right now.
So is the essential experience and, as they might say, the school of hard knocks and trial and error in order to get you to the point where you have this necessary skills. I think that's a good point for young people too, because I think sometimes younger folks are in a hurry.
Yeah.
And sometimes
I was when I was young, I was.
Well, sure, of course.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's better to just get a little more experience.
Yeah.
Before then you make that leap and think, well, I'm never going to make it. Well, you have to hone your craft too, and people develop differently. Some people who start to compose just have a natural knack for some of the skill part of it. I wouldn't, because, here's the thing about composition. You can have great ideas and come up with inspiring music, but if you don't understand the actual craft of how to write chords properly and counterpoint properly and form and all that stuff, then your ideas aren't going to go as far as. So if you can have great ideas and you've honed your craft, then that's when we get to where you are, where you're writing successful music for
well, the other thing is, the part of my story, you have to network.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, you've got to have some skill, you got to have some talent, but you also have to have that ability to make connections with people that are connected. Especially if it's your first time submitting. If you're an unknown, it's good to have at least some kind of connection or recommendation from somebody who is known to kind of break through that. Because I mean, you can probably answer this better than me. You probably get inundated with submissions. I mean, how do you wade through all of that to I mean, that would, if somebody, hey, this guy, I've heard about this guy, you might want to check his stuff out. You're probably going to maybe give that a little more of a once over than somebody that you've never heard of before.
Certainly, because if you get a recommendation from a composer or a educator or a band director or whatever that you trust, then that's going to give you a little push to listen a little more carefully.
Right.
the thing about the submission thing is, you're right. We get hundreds of pieces, and you know what? Sometimes we say no to pieces that end up being successful,
Right.
and that's just because maybe it was, it's like anything else. I wasn't having a good day, or there was something about the way it was recorded. The MIDI playback was just weird from the software that they used, things like that didn't present that music in the best light. Or it's just sometimes personal taste. I don't like that piece.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everybody won't like that
Right.
piece. And that's the problem when you pick music that's going to be published. You have to use your own musical taste because that's the only ones you have. But you also have to temper that with, maybe this isn't my favorite piece in the world, but I see a need
Right.
for it. So I always have to kind of weigh that stuff too.
Right.
So talk to the students a little bit about, you write with, I said software, you write with software as I know, but tell them a little bit about the software you use and how you do what you do.
Well, currently I use Finale. And I've been a Finale user for many years. When I first started writing, that wasn't an option. It was staff paper and pencil and big old jumbo eraser because you always had to erase.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And handwriting out parts. We used to use that cold trumpet, in the squiggly line, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
And then I guess it was probably late 80s. Pi Graphics came out with Piware Music Writer.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I think you were talking yesterday with another composer about dot matrix printers.
Oh.
Yeah, those were the worst. I mean, it would literally take hours to print.
These young students don't understand. We were working on computers with a screen that was like that big.
Yeah, and noisy. Oh God, they were awful.
Yeah.
And just you had the paper with the little holes on it that you'd have to tear apart.
Rip off. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and very limited playback back then. It was like one sound. We weren't even using MIDI back then. So it was just like one uniform sound. So it was like a really bad synthesizer sound playing your stuff back. You had no percussion. It was really bad.
Yeah.
Now with Finale and the playback, it's not performance quality playback, but it does give you a sense of timbre and blending what you're writing, and it's good to get that immediate feedback when you're writing something. You don't have to write the whole piece, pass it out to the band, and say no, that's not going to work. So I really like that you can get that instant feedback, and it's getting better all the time. Actually, it's probably time for me to upgrade, get some better playback sounds than just the standard Finale stuff.
Well, I talked yesterday with Brooke Pearson, and he uses this. There's a plugin called Note Performer that works on both Sibelius and Finale. It really is pretty amazing how authentic it sounds. The only trumpets still bother me a little bit, but a lot of it works really quite well. And the other thing which I'll share with students who are watching this is there's so much like free stuff now. Musescore, M-U-S-E, Musescore is a free software you can get.
Does Finale still have Notepad?
I think they do. I'm not sure, but Musescore, for being free, might even be more powerful than the Notepad that they used to have for Finale. But also there's NoteFlight,
right,
which is a purely online environment where you can write. So students, if you're interested, that's something you should definitely check out. Either one of those two. Musescore if you want the software on your computer, or if you're doing it completely online, maybe if you have a Chromebook or something like that, where you can't have a lot of software per se,
right.
It might be better to go with something like that. All right. So Matt, let's do a couple, non-musical questions. So what other hobbies do you have outside of composing music or being a band director, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I love all things that fly. Ever since I was a kid, I've been building model airplanes and flying them. I'm really big into radio control airplanes.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
From stuff you fly small enough to fly indoors to giant scale airplanes that are half the size of a real airplane. I build, design, and fly those. I haven't been doing as much as I'd like to here lately. been spending all my free time composing, but I hope to get back to it at some point. Of course, drones are a big thing right now. I do the racing drones where you wear the FPV goggles so that you can see. It's like you're sitting inside the drone and you're flying around, going through obstacle courses.
Oh, that is awesome.
I do some of that, and it's nice to be very different from what I do during most of the day with band. Not that I love music and I love working with kids, but it's nice to have that escape from that, do something totally different.
See, that was something I did not know. I didn't know that you were into those things, so I learned something new today too.
I'll have to get together and fly sometime.
Yeah, I've never done that, but that would be really cool.
I'll put you on the buddy box. It'll be good.
All right. So do you have any pets?
I do. We have a basset hound. Her name is Bessie.
All right.
She rules the house.
I can understand that.
Sweet.
Okay, so one last quick one before we tie this up. I'll call this our lightning round question. So can you come up with a cool title for a piece on the spot right now?
Nothing with Corona in the title.
I know, right?
Nothing with plague or pandemic in it. Those are off the table.
Right.
No, I'm gonna say I got nothing on that one.
Oh, you don't want to, but
Actually, titles. I probably struggle more with the titles than I do with writing the piece.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. The old days used to just be Sonata number 1 or Symphony number 2 or something like that.
Well, and it's probably, again, I don't know, but it's from a marketing standpoint, that's probably one of the most critical decisions that we make.
It is, because that draws the people to the piece.
Yeah, I struggle with it. I really do. So
I do as well.
I'm not surprised that I failed on that question on the lightning round.
Yeah, well, one of the things I do for the students out there is I actually in my phone I have in the notes app. Anytime I see something that might work as a title or even a word that together with another word, I just write it in there.
I'm guilty of that. I've got a little folder on my desktop.
Yeah.
Saving that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday with Brooke Pearson that, we both use our phone, like we'll sing into the voice memo app. We get an idea and we sing into the phone. So we won't forget the idea.
Yeah, I get some funny looks in public when I do that too. By the way.
Yeah. Well, again, I usually do it in the car. I'm driving somewhere. I turn the radio down and go, oh, and then I sing into the phone. So yeah, people next to me at the stoplight must think I'm crazy.
Yeah. I saw an interview with Danny Elfman one time. He came up with the idea for the Batman theme while he was on an airplane. This is the bass line. And he's singing it into his phone while he was on the airplane.
That's great. I love to hear stories like that because it's always interesting to me to hear the creative process and how composers come up with the ideas. And it's always mysterious to a lot of people, but as I'm sure you can confirm, it's a lot of just hard work and working the problem.
Yeah.
Well,
sure. And one thing about Excelsior and the way you guys work with us, I feel like it's a community. When we came down to Tampa for the recording session in January, got to sit with some of the other composers and just kind of have that composer fellowship and compare notes and like, oh, they go through the same thing that I'm going through. That was
yeah.
so. I mean, that was a really nice thing, and I think you guys are really trying to inspire that and encourage that kind of interaction.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. Well, and I think it's the same with students, to remember that you're probably not alone in how you think about things, or you're probably not alone in struggling with playing a certain scale. There's other people that are the same, and it's the same with composition.
Yeah.
We're probably not alone in the fact that we get writer's block and we struggle and we have self-doubt and all those things that seemingly every composer has the same issues for sure.
Well, I appreciate you having me on today. Looks like the clock's going to get us here in just a second, so I'm going to let you wrap it up.
Well, thanks a lot, Matt. I appreciate it, and I hope that everybody out there enjoys it and gets something out of this Meet the Composer session with Matthew Putnam. And I hope that you'll check out his music also on the Excelsior website and play lots more of it in the future, and we want lots more of it, Matt.
Wash your hands.
All right. Yeah, wash your hands. Take care, everybody.
Bye.